In a so-called free state, officials and stakeholders concoct solutions to problems often created by other bureaucrats and with little regard for infringements on the people. These stories are born at the apex of freedom and entrepreneurship. We foolishly advocate for the taxpayer. Brian's Beat presents Freedom Fools.
Hour 2 of Brian's Beat. Whew. Let's start with our Brian's Beat quote of the day. You're not a nutcase if you want to go see a psychiatrist. You're not a nutcase if you want to go see a psychiatrist. I can agree with that. Anybody want to argue that? 508-996-0500. Yesterday on the program, we were talking about this whole thing dealing with birthright citizenship. Now, the Supreme Court's ruling that was released yesterday did not tackle the issue of birthright citizenship, but you get the feeling that sometime maybe this coming year, maybe in October, that session, or when they come back in January, February, that they will take up that particular issue. But there was a call that I received yesterday that I had to digest just a little bit, as opposed to commenting. In fact, she didn't want me to get upset at that particular time, and I tried my best to appease. And I'm not upset now, but I am in definite question mode. Her call hinged on the fact that there are a lot of folks that come to the United States from China, pregnant Chinese women, and they have their babies in the U.S. And as I understood her, they then take those babies back to China, raise the kids, and then I guess at the appropriate age, they come to the United States to go to college. And as I was thinking about the story, I kept on shaking my head. I'm saying, okay, I'm waiting for the big punch line. Because what I've heard, and maybe I missed it, and I'm honest about this, maybe I really missed it. Maybe it didn't come up in the conversation, and it needs to come up now. But pregnant Chinese women board an airplane from China, and they come to California. All right, so I'm thinking, what'd they do wrong? Nothing. They have a baby here in the United States. And one could suppose that they had the baby in the United States so that child could be a U.S. citizen. Good assumption, fair assumption, whatever the case may be. They take said child back to China, where they raise the child to be a good Chinese young man or young woman. And then that child gets accepted at a college in the United States, and she or he goes to school in the United States. So I'm still puzzled, and help me where I'm wrong here, but I'm listening to find out where and what was the crime that was committed. Is the crime the mother coming to the United States to have the baby so the baby would be a U.S. citizen? Is that a crime? Is that a crime? Should it be a crime? All right. So there's a big question right there. It's not a crime, but should it be a crime? Let's think about this. Should coming to the United States of America to have a baby be a crime? It's a legitimate question to ask and to be resolved. Because in many nations, that does not happen. But it does in the United States. All right. So that's that. Mother takes the child back to China. Is that a crime? Child was born here, still with the mother. Mother takes child back to China. Seemingly, there's no crime there. I don't know about China if they think that's a crime. That would be up to China to make such a decision. Child is raised in China, follows the rules and regs of China, but wants to get a U.S. college, university education. Applies for it and gets accepted at a college. It could be Stanford. It could be Harvard. It could be UMass Dartmouth. Is that a crime? Or should it be a crime? This is what I'm trying to figure out. I'm trying to ascertain this from last evening's conversation. So far on U.S. record books, on U.S. soil, the U.S. code, no crime has been committed. So I'm trying to tie this in with this whole birthright citizenship thing. What's the crime? Kid goes to school in the United States of America. Is there a crime? Are you upset that that student might be taking the place of another student? Because certainly that's not a crime. And usually, students that come from overseas, they pay the full ticket for tuition. They don't get in-state breaks. They don't get U.S. citizenship breaks. There is no such thing as a U.S. citizenship break, to the best of my knowledge, unless you go to the Air Force Academy or one of the military schools. You might qualify for scholarships, that kind of stuff, but you qualified for a scholarship. I'm trying to figure out where the heck the crime is and why I should be upset that a Chinese mother, maybe it's the whole family, but the Chinese mother came to the United States, and apparently a lot of women do this. They come to the United States and have a child, and then they take the kid home. And then the kid or the family wants that kid to go to school here. And even if that child qualifies to stay here because he is a U.S. citizen, is he committing or she committing a crime by being here? I know I'm missing the boat here because I still haven't figured out what the crime is. So if you could tell me, I would really appreciate it, because what I certainly don't want is to automatically just make up some type of crime. Let's make this a crime now. Let's not let people do this because they hadn't committed a crime beforehand. It was everything seems on the level. So please, I'm 1-800, I'm the dummy. Help me out with this. 508-996-0500. Thank you. Hello.
Good afternoon, Brian.
Yes. Good afternoon to you.
Always good to have you on. Not want changing the subject, but I'm in New Bedford, not far from the waterfront, working. I just heard an extremely loud explosion, or it sounded like an explosion. And I have no idea where it came from, but wasn't your average bang, to say the least. I don't know if you've heard anything of it, but it just happened within a couple of minutes, but anyways, I just wanted to let you know that. I don't know what will come from it, but that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Stick to it, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. So a bang in New Bedford. Let's continue. Hello.
Oh, my goodness. He heard an explosion?
Did you
type
hear
of
one
sound?
too?
No, I didn't. So where did he hear it from?
He didn't say.
Oh, my God.
Except for New Bedford. I think, don't quote me, but he may have said something about near the waterfront, but I'm not, I don't want to be 100% sure about that.
Oh, maybe it was fireworks.
Oh, there you go. It's that time of year.
Yeah, could be. So, okay, so you know I'm the one that said
Yes,
it.
I do.
Yeah, and so you can use my name, Sketty. I'm the one that said it yesterday, everybody. So I think it's fraudulent, and I do find it offensive that they're taking a spot from somebody else.
Okay,
And
let's break it down. Let's break it down. All right. Fraudulent is a crime.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what is the fraud?
I find it, myself, find it to be fraudulent, Brian. Because you're coming here, you're staying with a relative, you live the last month of your pregnancy in the United States, have the baby, bring the baby home, and then bring them back here for the college, let them come back here for college education, and then they go back home with this high technology. Our U.S., like, why aren't you staying here? Why aren't you letting the child be raised in our educational? But this is what they do, and you know what? They've been getting away with it for tens and tens of years. And
so how do you recommend that we stop it? If you think it's a crime? If you think it's fraudulent?
I do. It's fraudulent behavior. I think that we should not allow, like, women at a certain point shouldn't fly anyways, right? And I don't know, Brian, how to go about fixing this kind of problem. I'm not the president. I'm not a congressperson. I'm not a senator. Myself, I just say no. They cannot board a plane, come over while pregnant. And I hate to say that, but I don't know how to fix it.
I think you cross all kinds of lines with with that type of
thinking.
Well, I was going to say attitude, but thinking works too.
Thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know how to do it. There's got to be a legislator, somebody, Congress can come together and try to figure out some kind of law. I'm glad. I'm going to stop you for a second. I'm glad you said what you just stated, because the main reason we are in this debacle in the first place is a lackadaisical Congress not doing its job. The President of the United States should not be going down the road that he's going down right now. And if Congress had come up with some kinds of rules and regulations, we wouldn't be going down this road. Right. But they didn't. Yeah, this is so true. It's just becoming more and more evident that there is a lack of that going on in Congress. And everything's such a mess that, I mean, I just, at this point, something like that, it frustrates me, and I do find it fraudulent behavior. And, I just hope other people call in and have some kind of comment about this. I don't know. Maybe this subject will go nowhere.
Basically, because, and I just want you to help me out with this again. Mm-hmm. Because they have made a conscious decision to come to the United States, have that baby, take that baby back home and raise it on their own dime. And then the kid qualifies to come to school here, and they come here, but then they live and they drop all their money to have that kid go to school here, and then they leave. It's the leaving part that you have the problem with. Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah, I just have the whole thing of not just having the child stay in America, have the baby Americanized from its birth, not just from its birth, but I mean live. But so there's trickeration. That's why I call it fraudulent behavior. It's I don't like it. I
get it.
Don't like it.
I get it. Unfortunately, it's not a crime. I mean, unfortunately for you, it's not a crime, and I wish other countries would allow that so you could be born in another place and you can have dual citizenship. And dual citizenship is great to have.
Yeah, right? No, I feel like everybody in America has that anyways. I don't care where you're from. I feel like...
You don't have it.
No,
I don't have it.
I feel like everybody that comes in from another country does have dual citizenship.
Well,
you know,
a lot of
even
people do.
sneakily.
Well, yeah. All right.
On the sneaky side.
Many
you
thanks.
have a great weekend,
You too.
Brian.
508-996-0500. That's how you get on to the show of... let's just call the show what it is. It's called Brian... No, it's not Brian Speed. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. I do see you there. It's Freedom Fools. Welcome back to Freedom Fools, and I see you there, and I'm going to get to you in just a second. Let's see, 508-996-0500. Thank you. Hello.
Yeah, the guy that said he heard the boom down the south end, I heard it too when I'm up near the north end, so I don't know what happened.
Big
It's
booms.
loud. I thought it was a gunshot, but apparently it wasn't.
That's a loud gunshot.
Yeah, that'd be a cannon.
Wow.
Anyway, as far as what's going on, everybody is worrying about stuff that they probably shouldn't be worried about. People should be worried about their grocery bills, their gas bill, their electric bill. Everybody's worried about transgenders. Everybody's worried about ICE. Everybody's worried about this, that. And they do it on the TV, too. On the internet, everywhere. Nobody ever talks about, I barely have enough money to buy groceries. This is what should be important.
I've heard that on this station quite often, to be honest with you. Groceries, gasoline.
I don't come out here. I only come out here usually on the weekends, but I mean, just in general, people want to talk about, Republicans want to talk about transgenders, Democrats cower away. They whine about Trump, but they don't do anything. Even they don't do anything. And even the Republicans, they don't do anything. They don't like what he's doing, but they let him go ahead and do it. So what's the point of whining?
Well, because people are frustrated.
Do something about it.
Well, okay. So the microphone is yours right now. What do you suggest people do about it?
I'm just an average schmuck. What can I do about it?
Well, there you go. How do you think they feel?
All you can do is vote, and people always vote stupid people. And I'm not just talking about Trump. Like that Maura Healey, another one.
Gotcha.
Liz Warren and the rest of them.
I hear you, man. Thanks for the call.
Yep.
I do appreciate it. You too. 508-996-0500. I appreciate your call. Hello. You there?
Oh,
There. I faintly I hear you.
well, I want to answer your question. Why is a person here illegally? Maybe it's a
Can you? We're just having a very difficult time hearing you.
Brian.
I hear Brian, but that's the only thing I heard. Are you there? Look, why don't you try back? I know you're trying to get in. 508-996-0500. Guess we can call it on the table. A pregnant Chinese woman, or women, I guess it's been more than one. I don't think we would really know about it if it was only one. Comes to the United States, has her baby. According to law, didn't do anything wrong in coming over here. Takes that baby back home. Didn't do anything to break that law. Child applies for college, gets accepted here in the United States. Doesn't seem like there's anything wrong with that. Child goes to college and I guess graduates and then leaves the United States for somewhere else. That is that seems to be the problem. I'm not quite sure that it is. And the reason why I say that is, so the person paid to go to college in the United States, and by and large, they paid full tuition and fees. And they took that great education back to wherever home is, or wherever they want to start a new home. Now they have a lot of brain matter upstairs, but they paid for that education. By that person leaving, that means that there is yet one more position available here in the United States. So, is there a real law? I mean, the kid got an education. The school got the money for the kid's education. The kid left, did not commit, to the best of our knowledge, any crime, while here takes that education and maybe it could be China, it could be South Korea, and it could be a kid from any country. I'm going to say Nigeria. I used to know anyway, lots of Nigerians that would come to the United States to get an education. They would either go to up to Boston, New York, Washington, D.C., freeze their butts off, get the education, and go back home. Some would stay. And now what they have done, those that have stayed, those that have gone, is they have like a link, a communications link back and forth. Same thing with China, back and forth. Commerce develops by having these types of links. I learned back when I was a kid from some of my Jewish friends that they would tell me stories about Jewish people having always being persecuted, and they'd have to move from one place to another. But what they did do is when one family or a group of people went to, and I'm just going to make up names of places right now, but I think you'll understand. When folks left somewhere in the Middle East or Central Europe and came to the United States, they kept up the communications link and, we need this over here, and they would pay money for it. And that's how business developed. Again, I don't have a problem with that, but I guess some people do. Hello, let's try it now. Hello.
Hello?
Yeah, you're there, but it's very faint.
Can't hear me at all?
I hear you, but it's negligible.
Well, I'll still talk. If you can't, then we can hang up. I wanted to answer your question. Is it a crime? If you're coming to have your baby, it is a...
I know you're trying. I'm sorry. Maybe a different phone if you've got another one available. I don't know if you had the opportunity to hear what she was saying, but she was saying coming to the United States, and then I lost it from there. 508-996-0500. So what do we do? I'm hearing from two people that maybe it should be a crime. That it's fraudulent. How are you going to prove this in a court of law in order to, I guess, deport? Is that what we're going to do? You committed fraud because you had a baby here in the United States. So are we going to then start checking all women that board a plane from outside the country into the United States to make sure that they're not pregnant? Is that what you want? Is that what we're becoming as a country? the more I hear from people, the more I really wonder, I make this comment and people kind of shrug it off. No, I'm a conservative. And they say they're a conservative. And I said, well, quite frankly, the Soviet Union and the Communist Chinese Party, they're conservatives. Oh, we're not conservative like that. But when you start talking about some of the things you want to implement, that's a conservative, almost communist policy. People don't want to think of it that way. You're trying to restrict travel. That's being conservative. It might, at least protectionist. But exactly what are you protecting? The college wants the student, and they certainly want the student's money. And if you are putting together some type of dossier on the college behalf, we have 100, 1,000. I don't know how many international students go to UMass Dartmouth, but there are quite a few. Brian, the cab driver, used to bring quite a few students, graduate and undergraduate students, all around. They spend their money. So they're helping the economy. And then some of them leave, some of them don't. I see quite a few Indian, and I say Indian-oriented. I don't know that they're all from India. I remember meeting students from Miramar. Quite frankly, I thought, how the hell did you ever find out about UMass Dartmouth in Miramar? The college actively recruits. So, are we going to now make it a crime for colleges to recruit foreign students to come to their campus? And in essence, that student isn't a foreign student because he or she may have been born in the United States. Do you see the web that we're weaving here? Because somebody, and this is what I asked Sketty, and she told us, it's that the student graduates and then, I think the term was goes back home. And now we want to, or at least some people want to make that a crime. Your thoughts, 508-996-0500. And I guess that somehow lumps into birthright citizenship. A little bit different. Most of the people that I'm told that want birthright citizenship today are people that want to stay in the United States, and they become, I guess, anchor babies, and then they try to make it to the point that their parents down the road can legally stay here. A little bit different. I don't know what the final outcome is going to be. I know what the 14th Amendment to the Constitution reads. It does say all persons, and I know this is a far cry to some, but I remember, and I used to have this discussion with Paleologus way back when he was fighting to make sure that marriage was between one man and one woman here in the Commonwealth. And I would sit here and I would say, the language is pretty simple. It says two people. It does not say between one man and one woman. But they didn't, well, you saw what the Supreme Judicial Court wrote down. Same thing here. The language is pretty plain. All persons born or naturalized in the United States. 508-996-0500. Hello.
It does not say between one man and...
Hello. Am I losing you? Well, okay. Yeah. Most of you know the rules. If you get through and you're on hold there for a second, turn your radio off. But it does. Again, it's Section 1 right here at the beginning of the 14th Amendment. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. So, what I can see as a possibility, I'm not agreeing with this, but here, it's like I'm opening this up to you because I do believe if the court is indeed constructionist as the Constitution would read, then this should be an easy vote against changing birthright citizenship. But that doesn't mean you can't change the 14th Amendment, amend the 14th Amendment. If you do indeed believe that birthright citizenship should not be a right. And you can try to do a constitutional amendment, an amendment to the amendment. I guess it would end up being number 28 or number 29, whatever the case may be. But here's what I don't see. And this is key to me. If you've listened to me for any period of time, you know that I say, keep it constitutional. But you can change the 14th Amendment. I would not, get into the due process part. I don't want that to change. But if you think that birthright citizenship shouldn't happen, talk to your congressperson. If not, talk to a congressperson in another state and try to get the ball rolling in that direction. I don't think it would pass. I don't think it would pass in Congress. I don't think it would be ratified by the necessary number of states. Let's try again. Hello.
Hey, what's up?
Wangin'.
A few things, right? I think the same-sex marriage ruling was ruled wrong because those relationships, the same-sex relationship and the opposite-sex relationships cannot produce the same results. So their relationships cannot be identified the same because they're two completely different relationships. That's why I think that was dealt with wrong. And in that amendment, the 14th Amendment, it says it right in there. You don't have to pass another amendment. It says it in the amendments passed during Reconstruction, 13, 14, and 15. It says, the Congress shall have power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. It says it in that amendment. So Congress, if they weren't so impotent right now, if they hadn't been neutered or they neutered themselves, there's a lot of things that they've given up. And they're trying to go to somebody else to find the answers when it's right there in the amendment. The Congress shall have power to enforce by appropriate legislation the provisions of this article. It's right there.
Yeah, but if they want to take the part of all persons born or naturalized, the birthright citizenship part, if they want to change that, then Congress would definitely need to do another constitutional amendment, or the states would need to start the ball rolling with that.
I'm not sure, because at that time that amendment gets passed, I think Indians weren't part of that persons born or naturalized, and Congress passed the law after that. So it says it right in that amendment that Congress can do this through appropriate legislation. I think Congress has the power to further redefine that, because the amendments came out of war, and a lot of confusion happens in a society because of war. So I think Congress has the power to make that a little more clear.
You think they've got the power to make it clearer? I think they've got the power to.
Right in the amendment,
I think
Brian.
that means. I think it means to enforce the amendment.
All right, if it's being abused, it needs to be enforced properly.
But it's
And it has been abused. People just running over the border thinking they can get citizenship for their children. That's being abused.
I but once again, that may be true. I'll give you the benefit of a doubt right now. That may be true. But I don't read it that way, and I think that there are many other legal minds that would say the same.
Well, we disagree on this.
Fair.
But I have a lot of respect for you as a talk show host, Brian. I disagree with you on a lot of things, but you're the best the station's got. Everyone else is battling for second place. I don't mean,
well, thank you for the
jacket
comment.
and all, but some people won't let me get through. They recognize my number, and I just sit there and wait. I end up just hanging up.
Well,
But you don't do that, and I respect that.
well, that's because I don't know your number, and I don't try to know people's numbers, except
like that,
unless
man.
they're in my own
You're ready
cell
to
phone
talk
or
to
something like
anybody.
that. All right, man. Thanks for the call. I do
All right,
appreciate it.
peace.
508-996-0500. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. I think that is the sticking point right there. And subject to the jurisdiction thereof. What exactly does that mean? I mean, I have my interpretation. But what do the 9 justices of the U.S. Supreme Court, what do they think? Anyway, it says, are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. Now, the president is trying to say that this was born out of slavery. And that's correct. It was born out of slavery. But if I recall correctly, it also includes women, white women, because they were 3/5 of a person, just like black people were, and therefore not declared citizens at that particular time. I believe, and certainly the president was erroneous in his statement that this happened right at the end of the Civil War. No, 1868, which is 3 years later. In fact, it's my understanding that there was such a tough time trying to get the citizenship part in there because you had states from the South that in order for the states of the Confederacy to become part of the Union or to get back into the Union, they had to pass this clause because they didn't want to. And going back on to the president here as he tries to work this, I don't know exactly how his people, look, he's got a lot of bright minds working for him in the White House and over at the Solicitor General's office. The Citizenship Clause overruled the Supreme Court's Dred Scott decision. Dred Scott was a freed African American who fought for citizenship, took the case all the way up to the U.S. Supreme Court, and he lost. Now, I have arguments with a lot of my black colleagues and friends who say that Dred Scott was free. He never should have been denied. And I remind them that black people at that time were considered 3/5 of a person. It did not matter if you were a slave, freed from slavery, or you got to the United States as a free person. You were not considered a citizen. And then I get all the ifs, ands, or buts. But that's the way it was. Dred Scott's case proved that. Sadly, but true. So, the Citizenship Clause constitutionalized the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Again, the Civil Rights Act happened after the Civil War ended. It granted citizenship to all born within the United States except the children of foreign diplomats. Congress debated the citizenship clause for quite some time. There was a couple of senators that didn't want it in there. But the citizenship clause, and I'm reading this out of one of the encyclopedias, affirms that birthright citizenship cannot be revoked from children born to disfavored ethnic minorities. So, and to go back, we had a guest on the program yesterday, attorney Ondine Sniffen, who is an immigration attorney, and she stated, if the birthright citizenship clause does go into effect, it does not hinder any child born prior to, at the earliest, yesterday when the Supreme Court made their decision. Any child born yesterday and beyond could be impinged by the ruling from the Supreme Court yesterday. So why do I bring that up? Because it's my gut feeling that the President of the United States is trying to get people out of this country any way that he can. And he'll even go after people that are here legally to get them out. But when he does his count, let's say he gets, for the sake of conversation, he gets 5 million out of here. But 3-4 million of them are people that were already legally here and then deported. That's not going after the bad people. That's not going after the worst of the worst. But he's going to hang a badge up and say that he got 5 million people out of here. And people go, oh, yeah, he got 5 million people out of here. We still got 6 more million to go. No, you got more than 6 million to go because he didn't get all the worst of the worst. But as I like to say, people will just kind of fall in line with all of it. And, you know, after all, this is what the president said yesterday.
That was meant for the babies of slaves. It wasn't meant for people trying to scam the system and come into the country on a vacation. This was, in fact, it was the same date, the exact same date, the end of the Civil War. It was meant for the babies of slaves, and it's so clean and so obvious. But this lets us go there and finally win that case because hundreds of thousands of people are pouring into our country under birthright citizenship, and it wasn't meant for that reason. It was meant for the babies of slaves.
Here's the thing. The president is coming and saying hundreds of thousands of people are pouring in. Now, he has been out boasting that since he took over and put the military along the southern border, 95% of those coming into the United States have been stopped. So I ask you the question, do we have people still pouring in, or have you stopped it? And that would be the same thing dealing with what's that drug? Fentanyl. If you're stopping folks from coming into the country, are the only ones sneaking in? Are that 5%? Are those the ones bringing in the fentanyl? Either you're doing the job properly, Mr. President, or you're not. But one thing's for sure, it doesn't sound like you even know. What a juxtaposition between Simone Zimmerman and Daniela Weiss. Whew. Wow. We'll hear more from them and a few others in the coming days and weeks. We're going to hear from Mike King next hour. He is with the Massachusetts Family Institute. They're out letting us know what we can do after the Supreme Court upheld that parent and religious groups have rights when it comes to what is taught to kids, in particular LGBTQ type stuff that's going on in the schools. So we'll get into that during hour 3 of Freedom Fools. Looks like it's going to rain, and it's looked like that all day. 72 in Fall River, 71 in Mattapoisett, 72 in New Bedford. As we wrap up our